Okay, so this one's going to show you how to model structure and create windows and doors. So I have here like a wireframe. This is based on my 3D model of my building. So all I did to create the wireframe was I duplicated the edges of the 3D model building. So I used the command dupe edge, selected the edges. I'll just do these inside ones for now so you can see that. The dupe edge will turn those edges of the surface into curves. You join them, and then I offset them to have them placed in the center of the wall. I have a wall thickness of 2 feet, so I offset them by 1 foot, so they're centered. So what I'm doing is creating the center lines that the structure will follow. So that actually that created a joint set. I want or a capped one. Cap, make sure that's set to none. Okay, and then you can delete the original curve. So there's like the center line of the runs in the wall there. And then I also moved it down vertically. Just use the move command, hit the option vertical, then move it down by 1 foot, or at whatever half the distance of your beam is, half the height of your beam, and press enter. So now it's kind of like floating in the center of the wall. And then in order to model structure, I created a 2D outline of an I-beam. So you just literally draw an I-beam, profile of an I-beam. Started with a rectangle, set that to the dimensions of by 1, and offset that for both sides. It's half thick. Perfect. Trim all the lines so you can join them. You want one closed joined outline. Trim everything, press enter, and then hit and join. You have one line. Now that you want to orient to the endpoints of all your center lines. Now I put all my center lines on a separate layer, and I'll do the same for my profile called structure. Right click that layer, hit select object, and I'm going to type in isolate. Now everything else is hidden. All that means I've got my lines, and then to orient my profile of my I-beam to those lines, first thing I'll do is rotate it so it's vertical. I can just use the red handle on the gumball, but I'm also going to hold shift so I snap to exactly 90. The other thing I want now is actually like the center point of the profile I drew, which you can get by just typing in area centroid. Create a point at the center of any closed polyline. So I move this and I snap to the center point. I want to align that center point to my beams, or to my center lines, I should say. So see here that this is like angled and it's sloping. So I need my I-beam to be perpendicular to all these lines. And there's a quick command that will help you. So I'm going to select the I-beam. I'm not going to select the center point. I want to copy that a bunch of times, but then I'll type in orient, enter. And this will allow me to copy it a bunch of times and reorient it at the same time. So in the options, I'll hit copy, and I won't hit scale. I don't want to scale it. Hit copy, then it'll say reference point 1. That'll be my center point. And then the second point is like the direction I want it oriented. That'll be like along the direction of each of my center lines. I'm holding shift, snap to ortho, We have ortho on, and then I'm going to click just straight out from the, you can see straight, like perpendicular in the perpendicular of the I-beam, and then I'll start copying that to the center lines. I'm just going to click at the start point of each center line. I'm going to trace along the length of that. For instance, right here I have a bunch of beams that start at that point. Should more or less orient them like so. In some cases, you might have to do a second rotation. I would just do rotate 3D. And I would snap to the center line, my rotation axis. I'm rotating it around the center line. I would hit perpendicular and just align it to. And then, so once you start to orient these cross sections, then you can use the command sweep 1 to create a surface. It'll ask you for a rail. That's the center line. That's the line you want the beam to follow. It'll also really be helpful to make as many of these like polylines as you can, so that when you sweep that whole thing, it'll just be one big sweep. You don't have to copy profile line a million times. That's the rail curve. Then it'll ask for sweep shapes, so I'll click on my profile, press enter. And so yeah, that looks good. Okay. Same thing over here. Take the center line 1 and click on the profile that I've oriented to. Oops, sorry, click on the center line first, then the profile. There's the line I made at the beginning. And then, let's see, this is the last one. Yep, so you just work your way through like that and create all the beams. You know, in reality, you would have like connections here that are resolved, which you can model that. But in this case, clean that up when we do our Make2D rather than spend time modeling it. So that's structure. Now I'm going to type in show to bring back everything that I've isolated. And then I want to show you how to model windows and doors. A couple different ways. So first thing, if I want to model a window in that wall, I would create a cutout for it. And so I'm going to use the option rectangle. I'll trace the bottom of my wall to orient. And then you can draw a rectangle like that. I meant to draw it vertically. That one more time. Rectangle. Use the option vertical. Trace the bottom of the wall. Create a vertical. Oh, but this one's sloping. One more time. Rectangle. Draw it off to the side like that. So whenever you make a command I'm going to use is called make whole. I position this curve so that it's vertically in the right spot where I want to make my window on my wall. That's important, but I also want it to be perpendicular to my wall. In other words, I don't want it to be like that, where it's angled relative to the wall. I want it to be as close as possible to perpendicular. then you would select that curve, type in make hole, select the poly surfaces. Oh. Joint, and then extrude. Yeah, so that command will only work if you have, I thought I had. I don't. So that'll work if you have a joint poly surface, for instance. Let's model a example wall really. Get a wall like that, and you wanted to make a window in it. Again, select the curve, type in make hole, select the poly surface. So you can see it'll create a hole perpendicular to the outline of the window. It should just punch it right out. Yeah. If that doesn't work, if you don't have a closed poly surface, for whatever reason it doesn't work, the other way you can do it is by making a box large enough to punch that same open. So again, I'll choose 3-point here, trace perpendicular as best I can. Direction of the wall. That is my punched opening, and then I want to actually position it on the wall. So it's important when you do that to make sure it goes all the way through. Also put yourself in perspective. Into ghosted, zoom, selected. You can see that's actually not going all the way through my wall. So I would just scale it, scale 1D. Up to that edge. And make it bigger. And now, if I wanted to make an opening in this wall, I could also use the command boolean different. Then you just use the box you've modeled, object to subtract. Again, oh wait, work, because I think for whatever reason, object isn't closed poly surface. One other way. Again, just for demonstration. Had a wall that was a closed poly surface. And you positioned a box inside of it. You would go boolean difference, select the box, delete the box, then it would give closed cutout surfaces where the cutout be modeled. So those two methods obviously only work on closed poly surfaces. Third method, if those don't work, same thing, position the box in the wall. But this time you'll just split the object that you want to make the window in, select wall, split, and select the box. Enter. Now at this point you could hold Control on the keyboard and click deselect everything but the cutout parts of the wall and delete those. And then select the box. We're going to split the box as well, so type in split, select the wall, and same step. So I would just hold Control, click on the surfaces where I want to have the frame of the window, delete. Just split the box to find the area where it's inside that wall. And then I could join that. So keep a closed poly surface. So that's how you make the cutout. And then to make the actual window, to model the window itself, you'd want to create a plane. First of all, that will also be your glass. Go over to that layer. Create a plane that is just filling the vertical, tracing the cutout at the center points. The first thing is just that, create a plane in the center of the cutout. And then you also want to model the frame. So select the surface, type in dupe border, and offset. Create that, whatever the width of your window frame. Offset that curve inward, so now I have two curves. Just rectangles with just the outlines of window frame. Select them at both at the same time. Type in extrude curve. Separate layer. And then when I do this, I want to choose the option both sides. So I want that turned on. I also want solid turned on. So both those options should say yes. And so you can see it's going in both directions around the center of the window. You can either type in how far you want it to extrude, or you can click. There's your window frame. And the process is basically the same for a door. I'll go in here. This is one of my landings, so that's a flat surface. Make a box, 3-point. Oops, I meant vertical. Box vertical, height of a door, and extrude it all the way through. Now this is something to watch out for. You don't want to try and trim or do a Boolean difference where there's two surfaces that are overlapping. The one face of my box is right on the inside face of the wall. So all I want to do is just move that in like this. Go. So same process as before. Select the wall, type in split, box, and press it. Hold Control to deselect parts you don't want. So I also, because I'm aligned to the floor there, I accidentally trimmed that. I can just deselect that, hit delete. Same process, so split the box, else, join, J or type in join. And the only difference between modeling a window and modeling a door is you just don't want the frame to go all the way to, right? So first I would model a plane and vertical, trace the outline of trace the center of the opening. Then I'll do dupe border, or sorry, actually I'll do dupe edge. The only difference between modeling the frame is I just want to do like the sides and the top rather than the bottom as well. I'll just duplicate those three by clicking each one independently, type in join. And then from here, you can actually do offset. Again, this time you would choose cap and hit flat. Get a joined offset from your original one. And then extrude curve. That's obviously the door frame. And then you could delete the glass there or the plane, make a box to represent the door itself. A solid door. Like that. Or if you wanted to create a door that glass in, you would do same as making another window. So you type in plane, hit vertical, that plane, that is your glass, do border, offset, and extrude. Oops. There's your door within your. All right, and then the last example I'll show is what if you have a glass wall, window wall, like this. So the original part, I just did exactly the same way. I have a glass wall with a window frame. That's the same as everything else. But then what if you wanted to add mullion? So all you need to do is then select the original plane. Actually, or yeah, I will do that. I'm going to type in, select the plane and type in isolate. Hide everything except for that plane. Then I'll use the command divide, and I will select one edge, horizontal edge of that, and then I'll, if I wanted like 5 mullions, I would type in 6 segments. All right. We have 6 segments. We actually have 7 points, but there's 5 that are with. So at that point, you could model a mullion by drawing a line, extruding it, and offsetting it. Line. Start point would be there. Draw it just across the surface. Extrude curve. The only trick with this is you want to make sure it's perpendicular to your surface. So in this case, probably just not the way you want it. You would extrude it and then you would offset that extrusion to make a solid. The other way you could do it is you could just model a box. So we could go vertical. Wall and the curve as a reference. Create a mullion. And once you have that, right, it's already the right height, it's already oriented, you would just copy it. Location to all the others. I type in show. Got a window with, make a horizontal mullion, you would do exactly the same, just box. 3-point. Just click to the frame at whatever height. Want that one. Click to the other side, perpendicular. Yep. Right.